Hi, my name is Patricia Tagley, and this is Trish Time. I'm an executive coach and a life coach, hosting a community series about the attractions, the services, and the personalities that we have here in Greenburgh. And today we have with us Al Krautter from the Sprainbrook Nursery. So welcome, Al. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So, Sprainbrook Nursery, there's a big sign there, organics. So if you'd like to give us a bit of a history about Sprainbrook Nursery and about yourself and how the organics evolved for you.
Yeah, well, we started, I went to college at Cornell and graduated in '58, and that was the time when the agricultural community decided that we could save the world hunger problem by using cheap chemical fertilizers, which was a disaster because it's created all kinds of health problems for our country ever since that. But this is the way I was taught and the way I started developing the Sprainbrook Nursery, and I evolved to the organic way and became very passionate about organics as I started to learn that this was the better way and really the only way that we need to go into it. And I wrote my book, 12 Steps to Natural Gardening. I developed programs for every aspect of gardening so people could easily move from the chemical way to the organic way, but it's become a very difficult educational project to get people to understand what takes place in the earth because we don't see it and we don't understand it.
So talk to me a little bit more about the soil and how the organic fertilizers affect the soil.
Yeah, well, chemical fertilizers basically kill the microbes in the soil. Now, it's the microbes in the soil that work for you day and night, and they are your best friend. They actually can clean up a contaminated soil. They are the ones that take the organic material and release it directly to the roots of the plant, and that's what gives you this. The roots of a plant is what gives you the strength of your plant, and so it's nature's way, and we decided not to follow nature's way, and we just ended up into this disastrous health food problem that is occupying the nation now, and so we've got to get back to the natural way of doing things.
And how would it, if somebody wanted to start their own backyard garden, what would be the few things that they could do besides buying the plants and planting them to start to get this started?
You're talking about an organic vegetable garden, or you're talking
organic vegetable garden?
Organic vegetable garden in Westchester. I like raised beds because we don't have that large a piece of property, and you get a higher production and in a raised bed. I've developed a program in my book where I've got the actual ingredients that you should do into it, and my customers who have followed it told me they got phenomenal production and phenomenal vegetables when they have used this formula. And so the greater the mixture in your soil of organic material, the greater the nutritional value of the food that you're going to eat. And if you start building up, I just finished reading a book which was showing you not only what takes place in the soil, also takes place
that's very interesting.
In the stomach. So if you build up the good things, bacteria in your stomach, you become a more resistant to health problems.
So what are the products available at Sprainbrook Nursery that would help the weekend gardener?
Well, all the products at Sprainbrook Nursery are totally organic, so and anything organic will help the weekend gardener. We like a mixture of organics, so there's a lot of products that we have. The cow manure, organic fertilizers. We have a lobster compost that comes from Maine, which is very nutritional, great value. And there's a really great mixture of things. If you read my book, you'll see what to use in it. But the greater the mixture, the greater the value.
So you mentioned your book. Is this available at the Sprainbrook Nursery? Is it available online?
It's available. Amazon has it. It's available at Sprainbrook Nursery, and when we had the fire at the nursery, I just got 1,000 new books in, and the next day they burnt down. So now I'm waiting for my next batch of books to come back in again.
And the title of the book is?
12 Steps to Natural Gardening.
Okay, so 12 Steps to Natural Gardening by Krautter. It is available on Amazon, so make sure you check it out. So tell me, what else? Because you're the second generation for Sprainbrook Nursery. How did this all start for your family?
Well, my father studied in Europe, and actually in Dresden, Germany. And when he came to this country, and then he got married to my mother, they worked in nurseries in Stanford to save enough money to buy Sprainbrook Nursery, which they bought in 1944. So,
oh, wow.
Probably one of the oldest members in the Edgemont community.
That's very interesting. So you know a lot of history about the town and all that.
Yeah, I grew up in Edgemont and grew up at the nursery.
And so planting season is coming upon us. When do you think you'll have more of your plants in?
Well, right now we're working kind of night and day, trying to get as many of the plants seeded, getting the plants growing for the last frost date for Westchester is May 15th. People usually don't wait that long to plant. So if it's at the beginning of May, if it's warm and the weather forecast is, and the tendency is for climates to get warmer here rather than what it used to be, so you can usually probably start planting at the beginning of May. But you got to watch the weather forecast at that point, and that would be the time to start planting your tender stuff. Perennials, of course, can be planted any time.
I have a question about gardening, though. I was told that, you know, if you have plants that are in pots, not to leave them outside in the winter because the roots are above ground because they're in a pot. So in order to preserve that, you need to bring them inside. Is that true?
Yeah, well, this is one of the interesting things which we've done at the nursery now. We grew a lot of container plants, had them in pots. So what we did is we brought in leaves, and we put the leaves around the pots. And as the leaves decompose, they give off heat, and so the plants never really freeze, which is you get if they're exposed, you get the alternate freezing and thawing, which can cause injury to it. And that also is the way we built up leaf mold, which my father called black gold.
Okay.
And this is the first year that I actually harvested the leaf mold, and I'm going to be able to sell it to the public.
Okay, that's fantastic.
But we've done that since 1950 about. So.
Okay, so that's good to know, because I actually thought that, you know, like I said, we need to keep bringing in, but now we know that with the leaves that are falling, we can actually collect those and use those to preserve the plants that are in the pots.
Yeah, I mean, composting is one of the most important things that the homeowners should start doing, and it's almost a crime to take your food scraps, put it into the garbage can, which gets burnt up eventually, when you could put it back into the earth. Anything from the earth should go back into the earth, and that's kind of as natural organic gardeners that we have to start that kind of thinking. And actually, when you become an organic gardener, your whole thinking changes, and you look at life in a lot of different situations, which are more beneficial to everything that you do.
Let me ask you another question about roses in particular. I have a hard time with my roses. They're the smaller roses. Are they really supposed to be outside? Because it seems that they drop their leaves when they're brought inside the home. Is there a way to keep them?
Well, roses, of course, are deciduous, so they will drop their leaves and they come back in the spring. We recommend pruning your roses in the springtime, because if you prune it in the fall time, then your canes will die further back. So there is a whole procedure on how to prune different roses. As a matter of fact, we've given lectures on that. But you really have to look it up to see which roses prune what. The old-time rose gardens are going out of fashion now because they're too much work. And they're all grafted. So now you're getting into roses which kind of are garden roses that you use all year round and don't take as much effort or work and the knockout roses is one of the strains that is very popular, has become popular, and it doesn't require as much work and still gives you the beautiful flowers.
There's another thing too, and I'm gonna continue on the topic about roses only because I do love them. Some of them are very fragrant, and then some of them have no fragrance at all. Is it just the type of rose, or is it because they've been overgrown or let's say, manufactured?
Well, roses are one of the things that have been hybridized and developed tremendously, and they've developed a lot. They may be developed for your taste if you want them. One that smells right. So you got roses that have that particular aspect to them that they developed for. They may develop for a large flower size, and there's hundreds and thousands of different types of varieties of roses. So, and if you're into roses, you really have to do a lot of research.
Yes, you do. I actually, that is true. I've tried. I've tried growing. I've been pretty successful. I do have a couple of them that bloom and are very fragrant, and I really enjoy them, which is why I'm asking I'm asking you about them. And so, in general, though, like with regard to fertilizing any flowering plant or any plant, how often should you be fertilizing with the organic fertilizer that you have?
Well, organic fertilizers, we like to put an organic fertilizer into the soil early in the year. We recommend a product called Rose Tone, which was the Tone companies were one of the first into strong organic fertilizers. We recommend a cupful of that per bush early in the spring.
Okay.
But then we also have a product used to be called Daniels, now it's called Nature's Source, and that is an organic liquid fertilizer that we recommend that you do several times during the year. We also recommend that if you can develop a good compost pile, that you get into the thing of developing compost tea, and that develops greater microorganisms in your soil, and that doing 3 times a year is another way to get the roses going. We used to do a regular spray program on it, and now we've got an organic spray program which seems to work well, working with beneficial insects more than.
And I think if I remember correctly, you do have a product that you sell at the Sprainbrook Nursery that basically helps start with the composting. Is that correct?
Yeah, composting, you need basically 2/3 carbon material, 1/3 nitrogen material whenever you do your mixes. You want to make sure that you cut your products as small as possible. You develop in small layers. You can develop a very simple compost pile by getting a wire fence that's maybe 3 feet high, and you make a 3-foot circle out of it. You cut it 10 feet long, make a 3-foot circle out of it. When you're ready, you can just pick it up and then spread your compost material out there. But and then if you have good compost, you can develop compost tea, and if you read my book, it'll show you how to brew your own tea, and that's a great, inexpensive way of fertilizing your plants.
Okay, compost tea. I'll have to read up on that one. So
it's easy. You brew it overnight, and then you spread it on the next day.
Oh, okay, that's very interesting. So, are there any other organic tips that you could give our viewers so that they can?
Well, the best organic tip is to start really going organic, and a lot of people will develop the organic thing in their vegetable gardens, in their flower gardens. That's kind of easy that people do gravitate to that. But what they neglect is that they don't do it on their lawns. And there's been, they let their gardeners take care of it. The gardeners go for the quick fixes and the cheaper chemical fertilizers because it's more quicker and easier, more advantageous to them. And therefore, we're not doing it organic in our lawn. And it's very important to the health of your children and the health of your grass. My program on organic lawns is a more expensive program for the first 5 years, but after that we develop what we call a food web in our soil, and that kind of takes care of itself. This is what you call self-sustaining gardening, and my good organic lawns are better than the chemical lawns. The chemical lawn will never be a strong lawn because it's always a weak lawn. And when you get into drought situations or the heat of the summer, they take a beating. I changed my mother's lawn in the front of the red brick house over to organics, and we used to have chinch bug problems. We don't have that anymore. We used to have fungus problems. We don't have that anymore. We used to have grub problems, and we don't have it anymore. So if you go organic, it's a much better way.
So there's actually a video that you have, and if you could give a short introduction to this video about your amazing vegetable garden.
Yeah, this was something that we couldn't afford the heat in the greenhouses anymore, so we started going into compost energy, solar energy, and when I started writing my newsletters, which we put out a newsletter every week for our customers on organics, I said, gee, I could do the same sort of thing for the homeowner, and so we developed what was Krautter's year-round organic vegetable garden, which ended up being actually an amazing project because it utilized compost energy, which was heating the raised beds in our garden. We had uprights that were shallow that we filled with water, painted black, and so the solar energy would heat it up. So at night we had like 16 heaters going off where we had a plastic cover with plastic during the winter time. And probably if you can show the video, it'll show you that whole thing. And we even able to reclaim the water because we as the water developed a flat piece of plastic on the top. As the water evaporated from the soil and transpired from the leaves of the plant, it would condense on the plastic, and it self-watered itself. So it was an amazing project. And this year, which went down to, it's the second year we've tested it. Last year was a very tough winter. I came through that. When it was minus 10 degrees, I was in California. I said, oh my God, I would lose the whole thing. And I came back, and all the vegetables still made it. So that was amazing.
And here's the video.
My name is Al Krautter. I grew up at Sprainbrook Nursery among trees, flowers, and shrubs. My father was a master gardener who taught me about plants. My mother was a hard worker who taught me work ethics. The large selection of plants I grew up with taught me the organic way. I've invented a structure, Krautter's year-round organic vegetable garden, that will help our next generation. We are destroying our earth, and we need to make changes. We need to reverse global warming. We need to grow healthy food, and we need to produce energy that does not pollute our environment. I love the birds, the bees, the butterflies, the flowers, the trees, organic vegetables, the mountains, the sunsets, the rivers, the valleys, and the seas. I love this beautiful earth that nature has created for us. See this video to understand how we can make changes that will let us sustain this beauty for future generations. We're killing our earth and don't realize the dire consequences of our action. I wake up in the middle of the night with terrifying nightmares. I realize we're poisoning our earth and ignorantly following a collision course. I have nightmares. The earth is getting warmer, ice melting, and our coastal cities flooding. I see thousands of people running to the highest mountain and not knowing where to go. I wake up in a sweat and then wonder when we as a nation are going to wake up. Global warming is real, and if we do nothing about it, we will not survive. We're all in this together, and only working together can we reverse this trend. I've spent my whole life in the horticultural field. After being taught the chemical way in college, I gravitated to the organic way as Mother Nature taught me the path to follow. I converted my garden center with 13 greenhouses to organic. I plant natural organic soil. I use beneficial insects in place of sprays. I use liquid organic fertilizers, and I wrote a book of 12 steps to organic gardening. I invented and built this special structure for growing vegetables because I became passionate about the organic movement. We built raised beds and filled them with an organic soil mixture that we developed, whose formula is in my book. Dug into the soil and painted black to capture the heat of the sun, we have created 16 radiators to act as heaters during the cold of the night. This is 1-inch plastic polytubing rolled in 3 layers and hung on the bottom side of the compost bins. They're all connected together and later will be filled with water. Layer the compost bins with a proper ratio of 2/3 carbon materials to 1/3 nitrogen materials. As the bacteria break down the pile, heat is generated. The connected poly pipe was extended above the raised beds and dug 2 inches into the soil, creating a closed heating system. We added a beautiful deer-proof garden in the foreground of our animal-proof structure, attracting beneficial insects to the site. We covered the whole structure with heavy-duty plastic for the winter. We stretched a second sheet of plastic level on the roof. As the plants transpired water and the soil evaporated water, it condensed on the plastic and dripped back into the soil. We grew and harvested organic vegetables all winter long. Digging 2 tubes below frost level brings thermal heat into the structure. This structure was built to grow year-round organic vegetables. It should be part of every homeowner's garden. In the process of building it, I found it to be a great tool for schools to utilize. Here, Mother Nature teaches us how to reclaim energy without polluting our air, how to recycle water to grow food, how to stimulate thinking to reverse global warming. This is a hands-on learning experience. Many educators believe this to be the best way to learn. This project will stimulate positive thinking, creating important lessons to help our future generations survive. Organic meetup groups can be organized to save our Earth. There are grants for this type of project. It is a simple, inexpensive, and worthwhile structure for any educational facility to build. For those interested, I have written a book, 12 Steps to Natural Gardening. I have produced a 28-minute instructional video showing every step as it was built, and I have written a 19-page instructional booklet of exactly how to build it, included our written lists of materials to be used. These aids will make building it an easy chore. For more information, visit our website, naturalgardennews.com.
So may your world always be joyful, and let your worries disappear. And may you always have the strength to carry on, and your angels always near.
So thank you very much for being on Trish Time. And the coaching question for this segment is, if you're thinking about being an organic gardener this spring and summer, how would Sprainbrook Nursery help you do that? Thank you very much for being on Trish Time. We'll see you again.